Yo, what up, guys? Sticks here, and I just wanted to show someone this video. I don't usually make political videos at all, but sometimes I see shit and I'm just like, I have to show someone this because it's just so fucking retarded. Um, so this is a video about Tucker Carlson. It was about this segment. When do we get America back? It's a Fox News piece, which is one of the worst propaganda networks in America. I think all of the news, I think all news is pretty much propaganda in America. Or in most news, I should say most, not all. Most news is just trying to push an agenda. Fox News is one of the worst ones, right? There's Fox News, at least from my knowledge, Fox News and CNN are like the two culprits of just absolute bullshittery. And in like modern day news, information, the internet, all that shit, I don't know why, but everything has become, like, news has become infiltrated by opinions. This is the problem with the news. News has been infiltrated by opinion pieces. Tucker Carlson is like an opinion piece. I don't know exactly if this is his opinion. I don't know if he fucking wrote this. I'm guessing he writes his own shit, obviously. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe they told him what to say. I don't know. But the main problem with this video, I'll get into it. I'm just gonna show the video. I can't even explain, lads. I'm just gonna show the fucking video, alright? I'm just gonna show it. We'll just start and I'll pause and I'll run back some stuff because it's pretty interesting.
Have you been to America lately? A lot of Americans really haven't. For months, most of us have stayed close to home. We've had to. So the next time you get on a plane and visit a couple of American cities, you may be surprised, especially if you remember those cities well from before the pandemic. An awful lot has changed in a short time. Many stores and restaurants are closed. You expect that. Churches are locked on Sunday morning. That's weird. The streets seem empty except for the parks, which are full of the homeless. When you do see people, they tend to be wearing masks and they won't get close to you.
Bro, first thing, alright, like, so all of these things, he's labeling all these bad things. These are obviously all things that are because of the pandemic. People won't get close to you. That's weird. It's not really weird. It's obviously, obviously it's because of the pandemic. He obviously knows that. The way he labels this is just really strange. I'll just keep going.
It's a very strange experience. The country has changed a lot. The culture has changed a lot.
The culture.
Really not for the best.
The culture. It's definitely not the pandemic, which is why people are wearing masks and staying away from each other. It's the culture, lads. It's the culture. All right, just keep that in mind. It's the culture. It's a massive cultural revolution.
So the question is, how long will this last? How long do we have to endure this? When do we get our country back? When can we live like we used to live back in February? That question is too rarely asked, and in fact, asking it is actively discouraged. At first, you'll remember the authorities told us we could resume our lives when hospital admissions tapered off, when we flattened the curve. The curve stayed flat. In most places, it never bent. So we got a new benchmark for when we can get back to normal, when we get a vaccine.
I just want to say it's funny that, like, people are literally dying, and then there's these, like, these freedom types who are like whinging because they have to wear a mask, or like they have to social distance. They're not allowed to go to church. One of the things he brought up is church. Churches are closed, and then he's making some cultural link, whatever. I don't know. Yeah, we can't go to church. We can't go into a packed fucking church, dude. It's doomed, lads. When do we get our just the title is when do we get America back? Fucking love it. Love it, Tucker.
Everything will be fine once we can vaccinate against COVID-19. Many in authority told us that. They're still telling us that. The state of Virginia has announced that when a vaccine finally does arrive, it will be mandatory. Not all vaccines. Virginia will not require vaccines for hepatitis or HIV. They won't require a vaccine for meningitis either, despite the fact that meningitis kills a lot more, say, college students than coronavirus.
A lot of the things he mentions in this video, like, the corona is literally killing more people than a lot of these things. It's not like it's a tiny thing, right? I mean, you can literally just search this shit. 500 deaths annually. The coronavirus in US has killed 180,000 people. Meningitis has killed 500 people annually in USA. Like, how is it even fucking comparable? It's not even close. Like, after a year of coronavirus, I want to see what the deaths is. And compare it to 500, it's going to be, like, the magnitudes larger the coronavirus is than the shit he talks about in this video is, like, ridiculous. But of course, obviously, the people watching they like the talking points, and they're going to look up how much people actually die of these other things and how much people are dying of corona or whatever, right? So this is just one of the things he said. I don't know, I can't bother looking up the other ones, but I'm pretty sure that'll be pretty much the same.
Does. But once we get a corona vaccine, they're telling us all will be well. But now they...
Dude, Tucker's fake laugh is so funny. Tucker is like the worst actor. I swear to God, he is so bad. He is a porn level actor. Yeah, I'm rewinding that shit. Tucker is a fucking porn level actor. And once you realize, this is the problem. Once you realize he's acting, you realize how stupid this is. It's like the most telegraphed propaganda I've ever seen in my life. Look at this shit.
Despite the fact that meningitis kills a lot more, say, college students than coronavirus does. But once we get a corona vaccine, they're telling us all will be well. But now they've changed that. Not true anymore. According to a new announcement from the World Health Organization, a vaccine, even if we get one, will not be the end of all of this. It will never end.
I don't think... I know what he's implying. It will never end. I don't know. Life will never go back to normal. Even though what they've titled here, life will never go back to normal, and what is happening now will never end, is two very different things, right? That's two very different things. Obviously, with this pandemic, people are going to be more aware of disease and these, you know what I mean? These precautions you can take, right? And then obviously, everyone's going to be way more wary of these kind of diseases in the future, right? I don't know if that's what they're talking about. I don't know. I haven't read the WHO article, so I'm not defending it if it's awful. It might be fucking awful. I'm not sure. But
you get your injection. They'll make you get it.
Oh yeah, here's the other thing that I want to talk about. This is the main thing I want to talk about, is that it goes real conspiracy. All right, the first minute, it hasn't been too bad. He's just bitched about, he's done the typical bitch about, like, what's going on kind of thing, right? Bitch about, oh, we have to wear masks, we have to do this, we have to get compulsory vaccines, maybe. I mean, the vaccine thing, he starts going full fucking conspiracy. This is where it's fucking whack. This is what I want to show you guys. He goes full fucking conspiracy on us. Firstly, he goes, he's obviously talking about, oh, we have to get compulsory vaccines, because he knows that he has audience members who are anti-vaccine, right? He has anti-vax viewers, and this is the problem. This is what Trump does as well. With like Trump with the QAnon shit the other day, where he's going on about like, he doesn't say, no, I'm not connected to QAnon or some bullshit. He goes, I don't know that much about QAnon. I know they're good people though. Very pro the country. You know what I mean? And then he says like, he says like, oh, what, would it be so bad if I was fighting all these injustices and stuff like that? He just implies, there's this thing where they feed their base. They don't want to outright say conspiracy bullshit. They know they're going to get cold on it if they outright say conspiracy bullshit. I guess this is what dog whistling is, right? But they're basically just implying things. They know their base are going to be against mandatory vaccines. So they're going to, and it gets worse. It gets fucking way worse. It's not even, let's just keep watching. It gets worse. Again, I don't know much about what the WHO article he's talking about is, but alright, whatever.
But you'll still be under arrest. The World Health Organization says that finding a vaccine is not the goal. Reordering society is the goal. Quote, we cannot go back to the way things were. That's a direct quote from the leader of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, who, by the way, is not really a doctor. Because COVID-19 is not a public health crisis, really, or even a mere virus. According to Tedros, COVID-19 is, in fact, and this may surprise you, COVID-19 is really...
Another thing is that, like, again, I haven't read this article that he's referencing, but the thing is, the majority of people who watch this have not read it. And so he's giving pretty much no information. He's implying things will never go back the way they were. Is going to talk about, is about churches not being open, and compulsory mask wearing, all this bullshit, right? That's what he's implying with these two segments being right next to each other. But you don't actually know what the fucking guy is talking about with that segment, right? So
about global warming, as he puts it, quote, the COVID-19 pandemic has given new impetus to the need to accelerate efforts to respond to climate change. I bet you didn't see that coming.
The Bill Gates transition. All right, the climate change thing, I'm assuming... I was trying to look for some information for what he's talking about, but I'm guessing that who are talking about, like, since we're dealing with all the COVID shit, we're not making efforts to reduce climate change, and obviously the longer it takes to do stuff about climate change, the worse it's going to be, kind of thing, right? That's what I'm assuming they're talking about. I mean, I found this. I found this, obviously, was the first thing that came up, where they're just talking about what we learned from COVID to teach us about climate change. Obviously, they're drawing a link because there's two different, I guess, pandemics. I mean, climate change isn't a pandemic, but it's a similar sort of issue. And there's definitely going to be a connection between, like, if we can't handle this thing, or if there's problems handling the pandemic, a lot of these same problems, if they're, like, systematic or whatever, are going to be a problem handling climate change, which is it's a different issue, obviously, but it requires some level of cooperation, right? I'll go back, hang on.
Respond to climate change. Bet you didn't see that coming. Bill Gates did. He agrees with that wholeheartedly. Earlier this week.
Also, he points, like, oh my God, dude, he goes through dude, I swear to God, just trust me, Tucker's, okay, I'm not gonna, I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it. He's got Bill Gates in this. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about Bill Gates, dude? What the fuck are you talking about Bill Gates?
This month, Gates posted an essay to his personal website, which you probably haven't seen, arguing that the lesson of the corona pandemic is that the rest of us will have to sacrifice even more to save the Earth from warming. Now, for people who are not billionaire,
because it's going to get worse. We didn't stop anything. We haven't done, like, obviously countries aren't doing anything about climate change while the pandemic's going on. They're dealing with the pandemic, right? That's what I'm assuming he's talking about. Of course, if you're what? Oh my God, dude. Bro,
global influencers, this is all pretty confusing. Quick, what does the coronavirus have to do with climate change?
What does it have to do?
Well, for one thing, China caused both of them. That's the obvious.
Let me get back on that one.
Have to do with climate change. Well, for one thing, China caused both of them. That's the obvious link.
China caused both climate change and COVID-19. Very interesting, Tucker Carlson. Very interesting. Very interesting take. Bro, he goes through the conspiracy theory fucking rabbit hole. So we got China caused COVID-19. Alright, which technically, yeah, you could say it originated in China, so they caused it. You could say, yes, they fucked up. They covered up shit. Yeah, you can blame China for how bad COVID is. Partially. Not entirely. It's fucking retarded. Dude, the thing is that these issues are very complicated, and then you can't just scapegoat a single fucking thing. And that's what a lot of, like, on Fox News, especially on these right-leaning news programs, they scapegoat an individual thing, and they go, this individual thing, this is China. Massive scapegoats. Same with, like, I mean, I don't know how the fuck you're gonna say. I don't know how you're gonna say China caused global warming. They helped a lot. They are the biggest contributor, I guess, to the climate problems, right? They have the most emissions, if you're gonna say that. Not most emissions per person, obviously, but most emissions as a country. So, I mean, but everyone, everyone caused climate change. I know he's joking. I don't know if he is joking, actually. So we got, fuck China. Okay. Anyways, I'll just keep going. What the fuck's Bill Gates on the screen? You probably wonder why Bill Gates on the screen? Firstly, everyone, like, I've seen so much articles and shit of, like, Bill Gates. He's trying to, like, chip your kids and shit. Trying to put fucking microchips and, like, control your brain and shit. So obviously they harp on about that shit. No, like, they wouldn't give a fuck about what Bill Gates says until, like, there's this massive movement of, like, anti-Bill Gates conspiracy theorists. So they're obviously gonna have to pull Bill Gates' fucking personal website into this. Anyways, I'll continue.
That's the obvious link. But that is definitely not the point Dr. Tedros and Bill Gates are making. Both of them bow before China. They would never meaningfully criticize the Chinese government.
I really doubt that.
Be assured that's not the connection they're drawing. No. For Dr. Tedros and Bill Gates, pandemic and climate change share a very different connection. Both are useful pretexts for mass social control. Both are essentially unsolvable crises they can harness to bypass democracy and force powerless populations to obey their commands. Now it makes sense.
Dude, this is what I'm talking about. I didn't want to talk too much at the beginning. Bro, like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? They're getting powerless populations to bow to their commands. This is what I'm talking about. He goes through the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, dude. Like, what is... Okay, he doesn't give any example. And this is the thing. He says things with implications that you already know what the fuck he's talking about, and he doesn't give any examples, right? He knows the conspiracy theorists are going to go start looking into it and go through their fucking conspiracy wet dream, whatever. And look at his... Oh, man, there's more porn... This is even more porn level acting. Look at... I need to watch that... Bro. Listen, just... Like, unironically, this video... This is the thing. He says some conspiracy shit. This video has 1.7 million views. Vast majority upvotes. And he's saying shit like this. He's pushing some fat conspiracy shit. He doesn't say how any... He doesn't say how Tucker Carlson is Bill Gates... using mass... What the fuck did he even say? Okay, alright. Okay.
Very different connection. Both are useful pretexts for mass social control. Both are essentially unsolvable crises they can harness to bypass democracy and force powerless populations to obey their commands.
How are they forcing powerless populations to obey their commands? By telling them to wear a fucking mask? Like, I don't really understand what the master conspiracy plan here is. Take actions for stopping a pandemic and not letting you go to church. Amazing.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, we gotta watch that again. I gotta watch Tucker Carlson say it. Tucker Carlson acting, boys. Watch.
Powerless populations to obey their commands. Now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Ever wondered why our leaders consider the coronavirus a major public health crisis, but not, say, suicides and drug ODs? Well, this is why. When a 26-year-old mother in New Hampshire...
Because, okay, firstly, he says... Oh my god. He says that the pandemic and climate change are unsolvable problems. That's the first implication he makes. And so he's implying that none of these things, none of the precautions we're taking are trying to solve the problems. They're for mass social control or something. And then he says suicides and drug epidemic stuff. How come that is the problems that are solved? The pandemic is like an infinitely more fixable issue. I mean, a lot of countries have done really good with the pandemic, right? Like, the USA could have had like literally 100,000 less deaths if they took better, you know what I mean? If they did better. Suicide, like, is a huge fucking thing, but it's a very different thing. It's not like it's the same set of problems. It's not like, I don't know, whatever. I'll continue.
Hampshire drops dead from fentanyl. Bill Gates and Dr. Tedros don't get more powerful. Her death is useless to them, so they don't care. If you
the fentanyl lady, death is useless. They don't care. I'm sure they do care.
actually wanted to improve people's lives, you would look at things very differently, and you would probably reach very different conclusions about the pandemic. In just a...
Hey, I gotta look this up, one sec. I'm looking at the drug overdoses, and they're literally not even, like, they're less than the pandemic as well. There's 60,000 people dying of drug overdoses 2018 in America, which is a lot. That's a big problem, obviously. But firstly, that's less than COVID by probably a decent margin at this rate. And what solutions do you have, Tucker Carlson, to the drug overdose problem? Like, what solutions do you have? Like, a lot of these right-leaning politics is all about, like, they don't offer solutions, they just imply that the other people don't care. It's like, what the fuck, like, Mr. Trumpy's been in White House, like, he hasn't done anything. I'm not gonna say, like, the left-wing people do it. No one gives a fuck. You're right, Tucker Carlson. No one gives a fuck. None of the politicians, none of the people in power give a fuck about people dying on fucking opioids and shit, right? Well, they might a little bit, but they don't do anything, right? Clearly, it's not changing, right? I mean, it went down this year, I guess, slightly, but... Like, no one gives a fuck, right? True. Actual true. But you don't give a fuck either. That's nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with anything. The left-leaning politicians in power don't give a fuck. The right-leaning politicians in power don't give a fuck. The news doesn't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck, Tucker Carlson. You give no. He doesn't give any solutions. He doesn't. They're not spotlighting it. Fox News. All Fox News are talking about is the pandemic. Stop acting like you're fucking spotlighting it every 2 seconds. The only time you spotlight it is as a scapegoat to say that people don't give a fuck. That's when you give a fuck. When it's like politically viable or a counter argument for people caring about other things. You say, well, what about this? What about the fucking the drug overdoses, which isn't as bad as the pandemic and isn't fucking exploding, basically?
A few weeks, a deadly virus spread from central China through Europe to every major city in the West. And
okay, so here, we. Dude, I need to keep tabs. I can't, like, he goes from conspiracy to conspiracy, dude. He goes through the fucking rabbit hole. Now it's the West. It went to every country. The virus went to every country. This is the implication that China, mysterious virus comes from China, goes to every city in the West. Very interesting. It's another base that he's trying to cater to, obviously, that are like the China's manufactured the virus or something like that. I don't know.
As that happened, the World Health Organization did nothing to stop it and, in fact, spread disinformation as it was happening. Those are the facts. So what?
I'm not sure about the disinformation. I think they did get things wrong. I think that's true that they did get things wrong. I'm pretty sure. I can't off the top of my head remember things. But again, he doesn't say, like, this is the other thing. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't give you any, he says things, but he doesn't give you any, I doubt there's any fucking sources down here. No, it's just follow Fox News on Facebook. There's no sources. Like, what are you talking about? Like, can you be more specific? Obviously, his fan base knows what he's talking about, right? Like, what do you, like, he needs to give information to people, like, I don't know.
What would a fact spread disinformation as it was happening? And as that happened, the World Health Organization did nothing to stop it and, in fact, spread disinformation as it was happening.
I also think a lot of the disinformation stuff is also like, they got stuff wrong. I don't know if they intentionally spread disinformation. They just got shit wrong. They did suck China's balls. I'll agree with that, right? But that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. Now he's going to globalization. Dude, he goes through the motions, baby. Look at this, man. He's gone the next one. So we have manufactured virus to destroy the West. He's going into... Okay.
Those are the facts.
Some nationalism stuff.
So what would a rational person conclude from
rational
those facts?
If you conclude these things, you're a rational person, obviously.
And most obvious lesson is globalization has risks. It has upsides, of course. Cheaper plastic crap from China, but it also has risks. Pandemic spread very, very fast. Then, as it happened, our most important...
True. There's downsides of globalization and there's upsides. True. But he only listed one downside. I don't know if he's implying more downsides somewhere. I don't know.
International Public Health Organization failed on purpose. It's corrupt. The WHO is corrupt. That's a huge problem. That's the other lesson. But no one's learning those lessons. When was the last time you heard Bill Gates or Dr. Tedros say those things?
What the fuck does Bill Gates... This is the thing. He puts Bill Gates in the equation because of the conspiracy theorists. That's what you gotta realize. What the fuck does Bill Gates have to do with WHO? He just links cunts together because he knows that everyone hates Bill Gates at the moment because of some conspiracy bullshit.
Dr. Tedros say those things? Never. They never will say them because they wouldn't benefit from acknowledging they're true. This is true about all crises. They only take the lessons that empower them. How about...
Again, this is what pretty much everyone fucking does. Just Fox News. I don't know how you can say this on Fox News. You're literally only going to take crisis that are empowering. The news literally only talks about shit that spreads controversy and outrage to get more fucking clicks, essentially, and more views. Just like this. Just like how I'm bitching about you talking bullshit, right? I've netted you some more views, Tucker. I hope you're happy. It's literally the same thing. It's the same bullshit, dude. You do the exact same bullshit. Come on. It's the same bullshit.
Global warming. How would a rational person assess global warming? If you really believe that carbon emissions were distorting the Earth's climate, and that's the claim they make, maybe they're right.
That's the claim. Again, he's saying he's doubting climate. He's spreading doubt of climate change. Obviously, that's the next conspiracy theory we went through. All right, climate change, is it a hoax? That's what they're claiming. They could be true. They could be true. That's what the scientists are claiming. I don't know, dude. I'm a bit skeptical.
Then you would take a very close look at the forces behind those carbon emissions. You would ask hard questions about the global economy. You'd wonder, who's profiting from this system that's destroying the Earth?
Oh my God.
How exactly do the richest, most powerful people in the world, that would be big finance and the tech monopolies.
Why is it, okay. Why is it big finance and the tech monopoly are the people to blame for carbon emissions? He talks about who is the richest people, and he's actually right. He's actually correct. The reason that there's so much carbon emissions is people are profiting off of carbon emissions, right? So it's kind of like he's talking a half truth, but the problem is that they never, like, he's never going to admit to some systematic problem or anything like that, which results in people just wanting to profit off of fucking carbon emissions, or like the government not doing anything to stop it or anything like that. They're never gonna, like, Fox News, all these right wingers, they never talk about like a big major, like, it's not just like individual actors that are doing things. It's the systematic thing, right? But they never talk about a systematic problem. They're always going to talk about this individual people who are bad. This billionaire's bad. Billionaires, I'm not saying every billionaire's bad necessarily, but this, you know what I mean? It's always like this guy, they're evil. There's these individual evil people that are making everything bad. But it's like, let's not change anything. Let's not change the system that makes these evil people, or that makes these fucking massive corporations that benefit off of carbon emissions. The other thing he's talking about is he's talking about, finance and the tech monopoly? But if you talk about carbon emissions, why wouldn't you talk about the fossil fuel industry as the primary fucking cause, right? Like, why, like, just because they're wealthy, just because the tech industry is wealthy as fuck, right? Finance and the tech industry, they're wealthy. They're the wealthiest groups. I don't know the wealth difference between different sectors of rich ass companies, obviously. I'm assuming they're the two richest, which is why it's bringing them up, right? How did they benefit? Yeah, let's not ask any questions about reducing fossil fuels or like renewable energies or anything. Let's not talk about reducing it at all. Let's talk about who are the rich people. They must be conspiring behind this. Who are they? Oh, these are the rich people that we don't like. The finance industry and the tech industry
contribute to carbon emissions. That would be the first question you would ask. That's the logical way to think about climate change.
It's a logical way.
And if you began to think that way, you might wind up concluding that people like, I don't know, Michael Bloomberg were in fact climate criminals. Their private jets.
Okay, so he's like, this guy. This specific guy that we can't actually do about, we're gonna blame it on him. So that way you're gonna ignore actually changing anything. You're gonna ignore any actual systematic change. You're gonna ignore changing anything in your own life or anything. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You're gonna, like, yeah, fuck Michael Bloomberg. I don't know much about Michael Bloomberg. He's probably a piece of shit. Probably. This is probably a half-truth. I don't know.
Alone produce more carbon emissions a year than entire African, in fact, climate criminals. Their private jets alone produce more carbon emissions a year than...
Again, so he talks about the climate criminals, and then his example is their private jets. This is what I'm talking. He doesn't give actual examples or evidence. There's no evidence given. He's just using a really shitty example. It's like, these people tell you, and it's always the like rebellious thing, the right-wing rebellion, where they're like, these people tell you to use less electricity or to save water or to do anything, but they have private jets. Are you gonna listen to them? Fuck them guys. You know what I mean? It's the same fucking bullshit, dude. It's like, yeah, sure. So we should ignore climate change because this fucker has a private jet. And that's another systematic problem. A lot of rich people have private jets, not just this guy. Why are you singling out this guy? I'm sure this guy did other shit, but you're not going to tell me what the fuck that other shit is. I don't give a fuck about this guy. I give a fuck about the actual big issues. I don't give a fuck what this individual fuckhead did. Like, who cares? Why are we pointing at this fucking guy, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Entire African villages do, not to mention more than your neighborhood does. A lot more. But tellingly, no one on the environmental left ever criticizes Michael Bloomberg. He's considered a leader in the fight against climate change. On the basis of the numbers, that is ludicrous, but they say it with a straight face and demand you believe it.
Well, if there's people pro big systematic change, I'm sure people are going to celebrate those things. That doesn't mean, I don't think the environmental left is happy, or leftists in general, about rich people flying around in private fucking jets. I think they're generally pretty against that, from my knowledge. I don't know what this guy's done. Again, Tucker's not going to tell me shit. I'll probably look it up. I can't be fucked. But if this guy is saying stuff that's pro climate change and stuff, that's probably what is celebrated. And I don't think every single fucking thing this guy's because believe it or not, you can be pro something that someone does and against something else that someone does. Not like in the Fox News narrative, there's people who are just villains and there's people who are good. That is the narrative. That is the one-dimensional fucking Marvel movie narrative, dude, where it's like there's a good guy, there's a bad guy. This guy's a bad guy. He has private jet. Bad guy. Again, I'm sure Tucker Carlson's CO2 emissions are high, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He cares about trying to, like... They don't actually care. They make arguments for things that they don't actually care about, which is really strange as well. Like, they like, look at this guy's CO2 emissions. Look at this guy. Even though 2 seconds ago, he's like, I don't know if CO2 emissions are fucking true. And they're obviously trying to debunk the left-leaning people who are like, I don't know, who are pro this guy and using their own logic. It's always like owning them using their own logic, but it's like, no one gives a fuck. Come on.
Part of this is human nature.
Like, they'll probably... This is depending a false narrative about people with certain environmental opinions, obviously.
All of us tend to place ourselves at the center, in the heroic center of our own narratives. And that's particularly true of rich people.
Big irony
tend
here.
Toward the narcissistic. But in this case, they are evading responsibility. They are profiting directly from a system they claim is unacceptable, but it's not their fault somehow. You know whose fault it is? Oh, it's your fault. You're the one who's doing it. You're the one who's killing humanity. You're the one who must change. You've got too many kids. You drive a pickup truck. You forgot to wear your little mask. You're going to hell. Good luck with your bankruptcies and your opioid crisis and your broken lives, middle America.
But then they don't... Look, what the fuck systematic changes are actually, like... It's so bizarre. And he's not wrong in some extents. Like, they are saying these things are bad. I've heard a lot of people, like... I don't know. I've heard a lot of people say, like, they're not gonna have kids and shit as, like, a noble thing. Which, you should be able to have fucking kids, right? If you want kids. Like, it's not, like... Stop sucking your own dick off, right? I'm not having kids, dude. I'm so noble. I'm so good for the environment. Whatever. Like... This is like what, like one of the things that the right-leaning people are scared of is like this family structure getting destroyed, obviously, and all that bullshit, which he obviously doesn't directly speak about, but that's what he's talking about. People not having kids and people not having families and whatever, you know, and the whole of America's going to turn into a massive ghetto. It's all going to go to shit. That's like the fear. They're playing on the fear, but then they never provide solutions. They point at individual actors. You have no, like, you're not even providing a solution. You're not even saying a single fucking thing that's going to stop Michael Bloomberg getting on his fucking private jet tomorrow. They're not going to call for that. They're not going to call for anything. They don't call for anything. They just call for people to be scared and outraged and look at conspiracy theories. And we're going to slightly throw some dog whistles at you. Some fucking, I don't know.
America. We'll be at the Yellowstone Club having a drink.
Also, I want to say that, like, with the conspiracy theory shit, like with Trump as well, there's like some left-leaning retards who make it so much worse. They imply, the thing about the dog whistle stuff is you have to actually view it, like, realistically. They're not directly speaking to an individual group of people, and they're speaking to a general group that includes certain people, right? Because I heard, what was it? There was like a Trump speech thing the other day. I can't remember what he's talking about, but I remember people saying, like, oh, he's dog whistling to white nationalists here. And that wasn't specifically true. I'm trying to remember exactly what the thing he said is. I can't remember. I wish I had the clip. Fuck, I need to like save this shit. My memory's not good enough. This is the problem. Like, you consume so much media, but you can't remember it all. I remember it loosely. I remember the people bitching, like, he's talking about white nationalists, but he didn't say anything. It was like a very broad dog whistle that could be talking about white nationalists. You know what I mean? It's like it could be talking about white. It could be talking about like, or like the Jews or some bullshit. Or it could be talking about like globalists or the Jews, or it could be talking about rich people. Like the thing he said was extremely broad, and obviously they intentionally paint with a large brush. But I think it's very important that you don't like. It's really stupid to be like, he's talking about white nationalists here, because then obviously people who don't know what the fuck you're talking about are gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You didn't say anything. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not specifically true that he's talking about those people. He's using they use a very wide brush to try to get as many people as they want on their side, right? So I think that that's very important. And I think there's a big irony where like, a lot of people like right-leaning because they hate left. I think a lot of people think they're right-leaning because they hate left-leaning people. Because you go on Twitter and you scroll down and you see some fucking retard who's like, I fucking hate white people, or some stupid shit, and you're like, yeah, okay. Like, you don't, like, they say shit that's just super fucking outlandish, and then you're just not going to side with them. And then you assume that you're, like, with the other side, and then there's, like, the reactionary types who, like, funnel you in, because they're like, oh, yeah, these people are retarded. You know, you can watch, like, lots of YouTubers, especially. YouTube's like the new political fucking landscape now. For young people, anyways. TV is obviously still for a lot of people, but obviously YouTube, there's right-leaning people who point at fucking the far left and like, this is the left, ah, la la la. And then you have like far left-leaning people like, the right are white nationalists, look at this. And then they're using like some, like they use the preconceived idea that they're already talking about white nationalists on certain points when they're not necessarily. Or actually, and then it's like, there's a big political problem where people actually get people on the other side. That's the problem. That's the problem, right? You have far-right people who make people far left. There's, like, white nationalists who start typing fucking white nationalist shit, and then they're making people left-leaning, and then there's leftists who type some stupid fucking bullshit, or, like, some BuzzFeed article, some, it's so woke and it's like so cancer, right? And this is again what I was talking about with opinions. There's opinions in. The biggest problem is people's opinions in news, right? Well, it's not the biggest problem. That's one of the problems. Obviously, BuzzFeed is like the prime example of like some leftist, disgusting cesspool of opinions where like the fucking people who write the shit are just completely brainlit. They say shit that's like. So stupid, and it creates these right-leaning reactionaries, obviously. Because it's so easy to look at a BuzzFeed article and roast the shit out of it, and destroy it. You can destroy it, because it's, like, so obviously wrong. Like, it's ones like, they, like, even just, like, stuff like separate, like, they'll say something that's, like, quite akin to, like, a right-leaning point, and then they'll get roasted on it, like, what's the other one I fucking heard? There's so many of them, it's like, it's not even fair. I'd probably just make some bullshit up and it'd probably be fucking true, as there's some opinion piece on it. Something to do with, like, it was either, like, white men or white women shouldn't date, like, black men or black women or some bullshit, because they're, like, stealing the fucking, they're stealing, like, if, like, white dudes date black women, then they're stealing the women from the black, or some bullshit, it's something that's just, like, the worst take ever. I can't remember which order it is, something like that. Like, this is actually racist. Like, that group of people need to fucking die in a hole, dude. Those leftists, and that's what's making all these people right-leaning. And people think they're right-leaning because they watch a lot of reactionary shit, because it's easy to consume. They watch a lot of reactionary right-leaning content, and a lot of the time they're not wrong. When like, these right-leaning people are grilling fucking these absolute retards, they're not wrong to grill those retards. But that doesn't make you right-leaning because you agree with them on these specific social points. Anyways, my point is that I think the problem is people actually believe this Fox News shit. It's really interesting. I see, like, I've seen so many I sometimes watch the Fox News stuff because it's like really, it's interesting. It's interesting that people eat it up. It's interesting that the comments are disabled as well. But yeah, people eat this shit up. And it's bizarre. And you watch it and I'm like, He's literally just like going through the motions of conspiracy theorists. And again, he's not specifically saying that shit. So I guess I'm being a victim of my own thing that I was talking about, but he just spreads bullshit and he gives no evidence. And he implies a lot of skepticism of these things, and he scapegoats a lot of people and talks about he talks about things that are systematic problems and then pins them on individual people. Like it's just fuck
it's
this
a scam.
guy.
It's an obvious scam. Here's another data point for you that you won't see on television. Less than a month ago, on July 31st.
Fuck, dude, I gotta pause it for 2 seconds. Here's the other thing they always say on Fox News. You won't see this on television. No one's talking about this. The news won't cover this. You are the fucking news. What are they talking about? They use this point all the time. All the time. No one's talking about this. No one's talking about this. You won't cover this. You are the fucking news, bro. They are the biggest news channel. If they're talking about it, then people are talking about it, bro. Like, what are you talking about? No one's going to talk about this. Come on.
Here's another data point for you that you won't see on television. Less than a month ago, on July 31st, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, our primary public health organization, funded by the federal government, released guidelines to state health departments about patients infected with the coronavirus. How do you track the spread of this disease? In a footnote in the release, the CDC acknowledged that researchers lack evidence that, quote, masks offer any protection against coronavirus, any, at all. As health officials work to track the spread of the virus, the CDC suggested that they ignore whether or not people were wearing masks. In other words, wearing a mask may be completely irrelevant to the spread of the virus.
I'm sure that they're not implying that wearing a mask is irrelevant to the spread of the virus. I'm sure they don't have the correct data in whatever fucking measurements they're using to track the spread. They want to just do it. I don't fucking know. Oh yeah, another thing is I literally I watched the last, oh my god, dude, literally, and here's the other thing, Fox News just like contradict themselves. So I watched another Fox News piece where they were literally talking about, they said, the only things we know that actually stop the virus is a mask and social distancing. I literally heard that in it was around the time I watched this one. This one's August 25. It was another thing that was like right next to it. I literally watched it, and it was like they said a completely contradictory thing to Tucker, implying that masks don't work because of a specific thing that the CDC said. I mean, hang on one sec. I mean, I literally look at this shit. I can literally go on CDC and it says, this is July. All right, maybe things changed since July. Calls on Americans to wear masks. This is from August. It looks like they're pro-mask. I don't know.
Huh? So there is still no proof that masks protect us against COVID-19? That is apparently the conclusion the CDC reached. It's not something Trump tweeted. The CDC put that in a release to the states. It seems like a blockbuster.
I'm 100% sure he's misinterpreting what they said. 100%.
Story. Why isn't that on page 1 of the New York Times?
You guys are page 1 of the TV.
Why is the entire media, the entire leadership class of the United States of America ignoring this? Masks are obligatory. They're mandatory everywhere. Just the other day, Joe Biden announced that if he's elected, you will be required to wear a mask when you're alone outside. What is going on? You know what's going on.
And obviously that point where it's like you're required to wear a mask when you're alone outside is probably... He probably said a general thing, and then they're taking a specific... Well, technically that includes when you're outside alone. I doubt he specifically said that, although Joe Biden... Probably, he might have just said some retarded shit. I don't know. He's pretty retarded, so...
Fear works. The more afraid you are, the more you will accept. Again, a feature of human nature. Yep. The more cut off...
True. You're definitely not... Oh my god. Oh my god. You definitely... Holy shit. Your propaganda network definitely isn't spreading fear of Bill Gates trying to use the pandemic and climate change as mass social control and controlling, I don't know if it was the helpless masses. I'm not sure the exact words Tucker Carlson used, but that's definitely not a fear-mongering tactic at all.
Off you are from your family and your friends, the more power they have to control you. This is an election year. Democrats want to win in November. The virus is their main shot to win. Nobody disputes that who's looked at the numbers. They're using fear of the coronavirus to achieve that. For example, polling places. They would like to close more of them. Why? To force a vote by mail. Why?
Why? Because then less people will catch coronavirus. Well, what does Tucker Carlson have to say?
They would like to close more of them. Why? To force a vote by mail. Why? Because vote by mail is more easy to manipulate. The latest coronavirus relief bill that
he literally is going, okay, this is the next conspiracy theory he's covered. This is a 9-minute video, dude. I need a tally. Someone needs to count how many fucking conspiracy theories he sort of like brushes over in this video. It's fucking ridiculous, dude. Now he's going that they're going to rig the election, basically, or tamper with the election is essentially what their strategy is. So he doesn't directly say it, but he's brushing it. Because that's unless there's another way to interpret this. If there's another way to interpret this, please let me know. But I'm not seeing it. So
the Democrats are pushing would bring ballot harvesting to every state. What does that have to do with defeating the virus? Nothing. It's not science.
God.
It's politics. But here's the key thing to remember. All of us are assuming, and on the right, it is gospel. This will end if Joe Biden wins. On Inauguration Day, no more lockdowns. Yeah,
who's saying
don't
that?
bet on it. This isn't ending. The Wuhan pandemic has made our leadership class more powerful than they have ever been. Why would they relinquish that? The only politician in America who has ever given up power voluntarily is George Washington, and they're toppling his statues.
Dude, what a fucking roast, dude. What a fucking roast. George Washington, he's the only good American ever. And they're destroying his statues, which literally has absolutely nothing to do with the pandemic at all. That is literally nothing to do with the pandemic at all. That is nothing to do with the ruling class. He's broadly labeling the left as somehow the fucking ruling class is the left, but then also the cunts toppling the statue, which I guess technically, but they're not even related. It has nothing to do. Like, the boogeyman left is like everything. Like, it's like the statue toppling has absolutely nothing to do with the pandemic. Like, absolutely nothing. Even if you categorize the people in the same group broadly, it's an extremely broad group. The fucking anarchist types and Bill Gates, dude. I don't think the people who are fucking toppling the George Washington statues and shit are the same people who are pro fucking these multi-billionaires. You know what I mean? In any capacity. I was gonna say controlling. I mean, quite literally amazing. Amazing piece, Tucker. It's really fucking amazing. Really amazing. I don't know how the news network can try and portray these people with zero... They don't even have evidence of how is Bill Gates controlling people. It's obviously implied that it's through, like, vaccinations and shit. But, like, how the fuck is Bill Gates controlling people? When we're watching you on TV literally, like, injecting your ideas into people's brains. Right? Like, you are literally the propaganda network. And you're complaining about fucking Bill Gates, who is socially engineering people by typing on his fucking blog? Like, what are you talking about? Anyways, Tucker Carlson has autism, so thanks for watching, lads.